Hey, what's going on, my friends? Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Victor, and in today's video, I'll be sharing with you the 5 major themes for this super powerful full moon and eclipse happening on August 27th or 28th, depending on where you live in the world. It's a time of completion, a time of almost a surprising degree of transformation, both inner and outer. There's the genuine opportunity to move on from the old self, to move on from the past, to move on from some of the things that have been kind of blocking your success in life. It's a really blessed time, I must say. Not always easy, not always without challenge, but blessed, helpful, realigning, absolutely. So anyways, what I'm going to do now is break this down into, again, 5 more like specific themes that you might be experiencing at this time. Happy to have you here, my friends. I'll see you inside. Theme number 1, I wrote down completing an old version of yourself. You may have had a lot of awareness about parts of yourself, some of your patterns, not only behaviors, but just the way of thinking about things, thinking about yourself, thinking about your life, the different emotions that come up as a result of this or that experience. You may have had a lot of awareness of how conditioned much of that is, how much of it stems from your past, your wounds, the things you're still carrying. And you may have experienced this frustration where you realize that the awareness isn't always enough to change. You can sometimes even witness yourself reacting to something, knowing like you know better, but here you are doing it anyways. And it just begs the question, like, what gives? What is it going to take? Am I going to forever be powerless over these powerful conditioned influences that are so clearly holding me back in life, causing problems in my relationship, causing problems with my life in many other ways as well? And the answer is no, it's not. And fortunately, this full moon and eclipse represents the completion of a lot of that, where you may have felt like you've just been repeating the same thing over and over and over again, maybe experiencing little glimpses of new awarenesses and perspectives and clarity, but mainly on an intellectual level, not resulting in all that much noticeable change in how you show up in life and how you feel. Well, this full moon is the culmination of that, because there does come a point where you do transcend. There does come a point where you really realize you are a new person and it's not going to come back anymore. You've moved on. We don't stay stuck forever, even though it can seem that way for a time. So my question to you is, what part of yourself are you ready to move on from? It might have to do with the way you view yourself. In fact, for a lot of you, it probably will. You might realize the way you view yourself has been, it's not necessarily how you view yourself today. More present, more conscious, more aware that there's a lot more to you than these patterns, than these feelings, than these identities that may have even come from them. You know, as you continue on this journey, you're able to connect with more and more of your deeper self. And it's a beautiful thing. But as this happens, it creates this dichotomy of who you now know yourself to be and who you've always been in the past. And for a time, it's like, you know, this spiritual teacher, Oddo, he calls it, I got it, I lost it. Oh, I'm me again, the true me, confident, empowered, aligned, optimistic, in the flow. And then it's like, nope, not anymore. Something happens, or you wake up one day for no reason you can discern, and you're this, the old, wounded, childhood, adolescent, younger self is there. And that other part of you is just this memory, and you go back and forth for quite a while. But again, this is the time. This is the time to move on. And if you don't even believe me, that's fine. But I recommend what you could do is use this as like a permission slip, because it is. And that's what the astrology represents. regardless of how much weight you put into it, which I recommend not giving all your power away to the astrology. But it is a powerful influence that many of you have experienced, and you can work with it consciously where you can understand these themes and really, like, again, use it as a permission slip to say, you know what, it is time. And I am ready to move on from this part of myself. And then, by the way, my friend, before I get into point number two, I'm actually doing something coming up here pretty soon that might help you with this if you still feel stuck. It's a 3-day collective breathwork experience. Many of you already have done breath work with me. It's the most powerful transformational modality I've ever come across. I've been taking people through it for the last 5 or 6 years, and it's always a crowd pleaser. It always surprises people with just how deep they can go within themselves, how much they can heal and release, and how much it impacts their lives. And coming up on September 8th, my wife Patty and I are going to be doing a free transformational breathwork experience where we're going to guide you through multiple breathwork ceremonies, taking you deeper and deeper and deeper in this like safe online container. And this is something that you feel called to do. If you feel like you still feel stuck, there's some stuck energy, stuck patterns, or maybe you want to just get more clarity about your next steps, your higher calling, or at the very least, you just want to like step out of the noisy mind. Maybe you've been feeling just super scattered and cluttered and need to kind of return to yourself. This breath work, I call it collective breath work, we're going to be doing helps with all of those things, and it's completely free. I'll leave a link down below to give you the details and the time and all that kind of stuff. And if you want to join us, again, it starts in a couple of weeks. I'd love to see you there if this resonates. And if not, that's totally fine. I'll move on now to point number two. Point number two is an awesome opportunity to rediscover your power. And I emphasize the word rediscover because a lot of times people feel they need to do a bunch of stuff to gain power, to gain confidence, to gain this feeling, this awareness, this knowing of safety that I'm good. I got this. That's already there. It's built in. It's part of your primordial essence and makeup. The only thing that can prevent us from experiencing that confidence in our life is it's the stuff that has been overlaid on top of that basically took your light and kind of dimmed it. And what you might find is as you're completing the past, as I already kind of mentioned, and some other things I'll get into in a few minutes here, you might start to just realize, like this whole time, you've had what it takes. You do. You literally do. As a soul, as a spirit, which you're all becoming more and more, again, in contact with now, more of an embodiment of the virtues, the qualities, the talents, the essence, the higher aspects. It's starting to kind of come back online, thank goodness. And as this happens, there's just this natural realization that, oh my goodness, I don't have to be afraid anymore. I don't have to hold myself back anymore. I don't have to worry so much what people think about me. I know who I am, and I got this. And what you might start doing is realizing where in your life you're giving your power away. And it might result in some changes you make. And for example, for me, one of the things I've done pretty much ever since I've been in business, I was talking to my kids the other day, and I've been my own boss, you could say, since I was in like my early 20s. I was a personal trainer. I've had many different like things I've done, different businesses. And almost always, I've sought out a partner. And on paper, this makes sense. Oh, you have a partner, it's good, it's helpful to get two perspectives. But deep down, even though some of my partnerships have been fantastic, but deep down, there is this fear that I'm not enough by myself. I'm not enough on my own. And as I've become once again for the 100th time, you know, reacquainted with this realization, I'm starting to realize it's okay to kind of step off on my own from some of my own partnerships that I kind of leaned on to an unnecessary and potentially even unhealthy degree, kind of holding myself back, allowing myself to kind of remain in a stagnant situation that I felt trapped in. But the truth is, I was keeping myself there out of fear which stemmed from a lack of awareness that I got this. Now that's me. Maybe you have your own version of that. This happens a lot with relationships. Talk to a lot of people who are like stuck in a relationship and they're not really stuck. Sometimes life can make you feel stuck. There might be practical reasons why you got to be in this spot. And sometimes you are for a time. But as you start to realize your true power, you realize that you have the ability to literally download guidance if you actually want out. But you have to actually want out. You can't be subconsciously clinging to something out of fear. You must genuinely want out. And I promise you, and it's happened to me every time I've gone into these things and led myself out multiple times because I never get the lesson. Hopefully this will be the time. But it's always this awareness that, oh my God, I have kind of been keeping myself back. So it could be a career, it could be a relationship, it could be any type of crutch, any type of training wheels that you realize not only don't need to be there, but are actually slowing you down. It's like all of us, we're like grown-ups riding a bike with freaking training wheels, wondering why like life is hard. A lot of pedaling, you don't go very fast, you can't turn very smoothly. We're very much restricted by something that at one point may have been completely suitable to support us. This is a time of outgrowing those supports. And no, it doesn't mean going off on your own and being this complete loner and not taking help or assistance from anybody. I'm not saying that. But using your external resources, including people, in a more conscious way. Keeping firmly intact the awareness that you are a very powerful person. You are a very powerful spirit. And though you can utilize resources, you don't depend on any particular thing. Because you have the ability to attract other supports. It's all coming from within yourself. And you might start to realize this in a very like tangible, real way, rather than just some idea some YouTuber's conveying to you. It might be something you're literally discovering right now at this time. And it's a very empowering, expansive time to realize that you got this. Number 3, this wouldn't be eclipse season if not for the deep emotional healing. There definitely is an opportunity for a genuine catharsis. You may have already had one where you found yourself literally emoting, crying, shaking, trembling, experiencing old feelings that had been kind of trapped down beneath the surface, causing problems in your life, distorting your sense of self, limiting your identity, stealing your confidence. It might start coming up. And good, this is nothing to resist, you guys. This is nothing to fear, like being emotional, especially you guys out there. I know I've done breath work, as I mentioned, many times, and a lot of times it's the guys who feel ashamed of feeling something, of crying. But in my opinion, and also women too, I've also met people like that, and I've been one as well. But I can tell you this, for what it's worth, my perspective is it takes courage, a lot of courage, a lot of strength, a lot of power to feel some of the stuff you're carrying. All of us have our own version of it. And you might find yourself like it starts to kind of slowly come up. These old feelings, you might start to see some connections and how they are related to your life and your past. And that's all well and good. But again, this is the time of like really moving on, as I mentioned before. And many times in order to do that, we need to kind of express that energy in some way. So it's a good time to be open and allow yourself to emote, to feel all the feels and to express. It can come in very unexpected ways as well. For me, it happened just the other day. I've been having these reoccurring dreams that kind of represent some type of thing I'm not seeing in my life. And in fact, in my dreams, I'd have like blindfolds on. I see broken glasses, things to kind of represent like you're not seeing the message here. And anyway, it was this trippy thing where I was at my kickboxing class like not even a few days ago. I was sparring and I was taking this break, taking a round off. And as I was just kind of sitting there, like watching the fighters go and just kind of zoning out and recovering, I just had this like, it all just clicked for me. And for me, what it was this, it's like a grief about my youngest son getting older, basically. He's 10, and it's like I know he's about to become like an older kid. So there's like this emotion, and an awareness that my beloved child is like disconnecting energetically, and it hurts. It's sad, and I found myself on the way home from my workout, like thinking about this, and I just started crying. I just started bawling like a little baby because it was like all that emotion just had to be kind of moved through. And I felt better. I felt better after, honestly, and it felt like it was just this needed thing to do in order for me to like also change and grow and be the father my older kid now needs. So it was very helpful. It might be even deeper than that. That's something I've already been through before. I think it might just be a natural stage of parenting, but that was what I needed. But maybe for you, it's even deeper. My wife had quite a catharsis the other day involving her accepting and feeling the feelings that the little child version of herself felt when she felt unloved by her parents. She recently went up to a wedding and saw her parents, and they were just extremely, as they often are, just disconnected, uninterested, didn't really care that she was there, didn't care that they haven't seen her in years. And it was like it brought all these feelings up. And she said as she was driving home, she was like crying and sobbing, just like almost like like a little girl would. But it's good because a lot of times when we're younger, these feelings are not expressed for whatever reason. Maybe you're in school, maybe your parents have, taught you that children are to be seen and not heard. Who knows? We all have our own story. But nonetheless, those emotions, those energies are like living in your body, living in your nervous system, manifesting as patterns and beliefs about yourself and reality, all of which are limitations, all of which are unnecessary. And these powerful astrological alignments, the full moons, the eclipse, they sometimes the stars align and give us this almost like evoke some of this stuff out of us. And so many, unfortunately, they look at it as a bad thing, like, oh, I shouldn't be, you know, crying in the car. You might feel like you're unstable or something. But this is how we become stable. In fact, Carl Jung, he talked about this. He said his trickiest patients were the quote unquote normal people. The people that came in and said, I don't have any childhood trauma. I'm completely good. I'm happy in my life. I'm just curious. He said those are the people that have so much, but they're so completely disconnected from it. And when it does finally come up, it can be very destabilizing. So what I'm saying is it's good to allow yourself to be unbalanced, allow yourself to cry, to sob, to yell into a pillow if that's what it takes, because those emotions are there. And the eclipses make it very difficult to deny and suppress them any longer. But thank God, because what happens after a good cry? You feel fantastic. You feel like a weight has been lifted off your shoulders, and that is available to you right now if you can allow yourself to express. Theme number 4, I don't have a fancy way to put it, but basically you might find that your life is rearranging itself quite a bit. There are probably changes in your midst at this time, things unfolding. And basically, what I believe is happening and what I've experienced before, and I'm sure you have as well, is when you undergo this depth of transformation, which is almost unavoidable during the eclipse season, inevitably your life situation will need to realign itself. And you might just find that you're in a transition with your some major aspect of your life, your career, your life situation. And it's a really good time to like actually make those changes because you'll have so much more clarity. In fact, you might find that you just start looking at certain parts of your life with a like almost like as a new version of yourself where you're like, oh my God, like these glasses, why the heck have I been wearing them? They're hideous. They don't match. They're super dirty. I'm gonna still wear them. But as an example, it's like, oh my God, this doesn't fit. This doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Now, if it's a pair of glasses, it ain't no big deal. When it's a relationship, when it's a business arrangement, when it's a living situation, when it's your career, when it's your identity, when it's your livelihood, when it's who you've always been, now that is when it can become not as easily rearranged as I might be making it sound, but still necessary, still extremely positive. It's kind of like, have you ever, most of you probably have, cleaned up a closet randomly that needed it badly? Maybe you reorganize your garage. And then you go in that garage like maybe later that day, and you're like, wow, feels better in here. Feels more spacious. There's a vibe. There's like a feng shui type of energy when your environment is in alignment with who you are. And one way or the other, you're going to become aware of where the misalignments are in like an undeniable way. But then it is up to you to make those changes, which aren't always easy. You know, it might involve having like an uncomfortable conversation. It might involve, you know, letting go of something that you're afraid to let go of, but you know it doesn't fit anymore. Because this is an opportunity to get like super, super dialed in, you guys, very aligned with who you really are at the core. And when you are aligned, your life, it's different. There's ease, there's synchronicity, there's harmony, there's abundance. All the things you want, like stress about, are just like there. You don't have to like even desire them necessarily. I want to make more money. I want to have this. I want to lose 5 pounds. Like these things literally will just start to, they're a result. They're a reflection of this alignment. But if there is something in your life, like the glasses or whatever, that's out of alignment, it's going to prevent you from experiencing the full capacity of what it really means to live in alignment. So though things might be shifting right now, though you might feel uncertain about your future, and though you might find yourself stumbling upon these like awarenesses of things that are out of alignment, don't stress is my invitation, and just see it for what it is. It's awareness and an opportunity to make a positive change and to create a life circumstance that supports the real you. And your life will be dramatically better as a result on all levels. You'll feel it too. There's a feeling to it. In fact, the other day, you might notice if you're like my diehard fans, I moved the desk like 5 feet forward in my office, because I became aware of just how stagnant my office was. I realized that when I come into this room, I feel stressed. I feel anxious. I'm sitting hunched over the computer normally, and I'm like, oh my God. I just walked in one day. I was like, I gotta do something different. I gotta switch things up. So I did. I created some space. I'm standing now. And now when I walk in my office, I associate it with creativity and like the good stuff you're supposed to associate with an office. Now I know that's just an office, but it's the exact same fundamental thing that has happened, that you have the ability this time around to kind of clean up your own office, whatever that really means for you, and then experience the expansiveness that comes along with it. And finally, my friend, as all this happens, you have the opportunity to experience amazing ideas, basically creative ideas, downloads. You gain access to opportunities of like manifestation and creative expression, and maybe even some type of contribution to the whole that you now are like receptive to and can become like partners with. Weird thing to say, I know. It reminds me of the book. A better way of explaining it is from this book called Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert. And she spoke of ideas as if they were these independent balls of consciousness floating around in the ethers, looking for an antenna, you, that they can be perceived by and then brought in to the world, because by themselves, they're just floating around. They're not doing anything in 3D. We are like these conduits, and you have the ability to tap into them. And what happens when that happens is, and the cool thing about that is you don't have to think so much. Many of you, and me included, there are times where I'm like, I gotta take charge of my business. I gotta take charge of my life. I gotta do this. I gotta create this. I need to fix this. I wanna change this. I wanna manifest this or that or the other. And when you are channeling these ideas in the way I speak of, which is not some woo-woo thing, it's just like I think it's a natural function of human consciousness, honestly. But then you don't have to control much. You're more so playing off of the energy as best you can. Like, where does the energy want to go? And then you do your best to write it out or create it. And then you can say, well, does this seem like a fit? Is this the best representation I'm capable of to ground in that energy? And sometimes the answer is yes, many times it's no. You gotta fine tune it. But the cool thing is you're not driving the car. You're just the one who's kind of like playing off the energy. And when this happened, you can create some pretty powerful things that can surprise you. Like, I've been doing this for a long time. I've been on the journey a long time, and I've done things that have surprised me. I would have never in a million years thought, for example, I'd have like 300,000 something like YouTube subscribers. I remember back in the day when I was like trying to grow on YouTube, I was on these forums and there were people who had like 500, 1,000 followers. And I was like, oh my God, that's insane. How do they do it? I was learning from them. At no point did I expect it to go this far, but it wasn't really me doing it. It wasn't something I like did. It was something I did my best to put into action to the feeling I had, this like this urge, this difficult to explain sort of compulsion, like pull to speak, to write down these ideas that wouldn't leave me alone, and to have the courage to put them out there on YouTube. And then through that, doing it over and over again, it's like the energy has, that's why I think a lot of people, they credit God for everything. And I understand, like, I'm not like a religious guy, but I know what they mean by that. And I agree. It's like, it's God. This is like God's YouTube channel. This is not really mine. I'm a part of it. And yes, it did require me, but the idea, the energy, it didn't come from Victor. It came from somewhere else. And you can have your own version of that. And you might find a lot of times you'll get these ideas, these downloads that can be a win for you and a win for the collective. And somehow, a lot of times these ideas, they do have to stay kind of pure. They're very easily tainted by our own sort of desires and preferences and our ego and inflation and things like that. So it is a tricky thing, I found, to like stay humble and sincere and like know you're not the one driving the car. And if you can do that and put in the work, you can create some amazing things. And this full moon and eclipse is an opportunity to get that download, to have that big idea, as Elizabeth Gilbert speaks of. But then it's up to you to bring it into reality. But I think you're going to want to. It's a lot of fun to do that. And again, it takes the pressure off, because it's not about, will I succeed? It's, how long will it take for me to figure out how to dial this in so that the energy does what it wants to do? It's a very different way of manifestation and going about things. And it's exciting. I'm excited for it, obviously. So with that said, reminder, if you guys are interested in joining me and Patty for a free 3-day transformational breathwork journey, I'll leave a link down below. It's amazing for letting go, reconnecting, or just joining a community of people who you vibe with, who are doing this kind of work. I'm excited for you. It's extremely powerful. I know when you think of breathwork, you think of like calming your body down with breathing. This is different. This is a extremely powerful trauma healing modality that has many, many benefits to it and is completely safe and free. I can't speak highly of it enough. It's changed my life, and I cannot wait to bring you through this so you can just see how powerful your own breath can really be. So thank you for watching, my friends. God bless you all. Peace.